We build partnerships. We build trust.
He is the new top cop in Newport News, and he's promising more than a cut in crime. And that is our top story this Thursday night. I'm Regina Mobley.
And I'm David Allen. Steve Drew will serve as the city's police chief. He joins the department from Richmond, filling the role Richard Myers left after he retired 9 months ago. 13 News Now reporter Chanu Her is live for us tonight in Newport News.
And Chanu, the new chief, says he sees a lot of similarities between Newport News and Richmond.
Well, he certainly does, and that was one of the big draws for him to come to this area. The Newport News Police Department introduced him as the new chief just a few hours ago, and he comes to this area, like you guys said, from Richmond, where he was a deputy chief. After searching for nearly a year, the city of Newport News finally has a new police chief, Steve Drew, who spent nearly 25 years in Richmond. With him comes a strong initiative to build relationships with the community and earn the trust of the public.
We're going to find creative ways to do that, but we are going to do it. I want to make sure that everyone understands that we're going to reduce crime in this city, we're going to build strong partnerships, and we're going to engage our citizens and our youth.
The city manager says through the interview process, she saw many qualities she liked about Drew, like his experience in dealing with a city similar to Newport News.
I was also very impressed with some of the success that he has had and been a part of in Richmond in dealing with some similar issues and putting into place some initiatives and some policing practices to help reduce crime in Richmond.
All right, and the public does have a chance for a meet and greet with Chief Drew next Wednesday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. right here at the Newport News Police Headquarters. Live in Newport News, Chanu Her, 13 News Now.
While in Richmond, Drew worked in just about every department, including narcotics, homeland security, and major crimes. There he oversaw many homicide investigations, some of Richmond's most crime-ridden neighborhoods. That knowledge could help him in Newport News, where the murder count is on the rise.
Right, hurricane season starts in 1 week, but we're already tracking the tropics. Trouble is brewing in the Gulf of Mexico, just off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula.
Live video shows the system dumping rain on Cancun. Forecasters say this has the potential to become the first named storm of the season. Could this become Alberto?
Let's check in with Jeff. Could it?
Very likely. Even if it's not a true tropical system, and there's a whole bunch of technical mumbo jumbo that decides whether or not a storm is an actual tropical storm, a warm chord storm as we call it, or sort of a hybrid system. So let's take a look at everything right now, and you can see beautiful conditions here locally. Nothing at all on radar, but there is moisture down to the south. There's actually some in the southern U.S., and that's eventually going to merge with this, which is what we were talking about here over the Yucatan Peninsula. The center of the storm is right over the sort of northwest or northeastern portion of the Yucatan. 90% chance it gets a name here of Alberto in the next couple of days. And again, just sort of technical mumbo jumbo, whether it's a subtropical storm or an actual tropical storm, doesn't really matter. The bottom line is it matters a slight difference in terms of where the strongest winds are located. But other than that, you're going to have some gusty winds, probably no more than tropical storm strength. And then it's likely to work its way up through areas of the sort of eastern Gulf of Mexico here and sort of central Gulf of Mexico, make a landfall most likely there between maybe New Orleans and over to about the Florida Panhandle. Here's where the European model, which statistically is the best performing model when it comes to hurricane path prediction. And you can see as we get into Sunday, it's still down there well south of us, but into Monday starts to drift up into the areas there, as I mentioned, around the Panhandle or just westward. So this is the area that on Monday it showed just sort of flirting with us, some of that advanced moisture out ahead of the main storm. That could mean the difference between a very nice Memorial Day and a day where we just have a few storms, is tracking where that sort of advanced guard heads to. So that's what we'll be watching when it comes to the forecast, certainly for early next week. In the meantime, pretty nice looking holiday forecast. That's what I'll give details on coming up.
All right, Jeff, NOAA predicts we could see as many as 4 major hurricanes this season. That's according to new data released today. Their forecasters predict a near or above average Atlantic hurricane season. 13 News Now anchor Philip Townsend digs into their findings.
You're looking at the NOAA's hurricane season outlook for 2018. You can see there's a 35% chance that it's an above normal season this year. But how accurate have these predictions been? We need a little context. Starting in 2014, 3 to 6 hurricanes were predicted that year. The actual number ended up being in that range, 6 hurricanes, 2 of them major, which is a Category 3 or higher. Now the following year, in 2015, 3 to 6 hurricanes were predicted again. We actually saw 4, with 2 of them major. That year also extended the period without a major hurricane making landfall in the U.S. to 10 years. Now the next couple of years, things would get more active. In 2016, the NOAA predicted 4 to 8 hurricanes. The actual number was 7, with 4 becoming major. We also saw an unusual January hurricane, Alex. Then in 2017, last year, the costliest season ever recorded, 5 to 9 hurricanes were predicted. 10 ended up forming, with 6 of them turning into major hurricanes. It was also the greatest number of consecutive hurricanes that formed since the start of the satellite era, the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in Irma, and devastation stretching from Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands to 6 different coastal states. So, here's the takeaway on those preseason predictions. When it comes to predicting the number of hurricanes we'll actually see, they've almost all been right within that range. However, the percentage of whether we'll see an above normal or below normal season is much more spotty. For 13 News Now, I'm Philip Townsend.
We are tracking the tropics on your smartphone with the free 13 News Now app. The latest updates are only a few taps away. It is available for Apple and Android. He is accused of helping a man get away with murder. Now Henry Smith faces a judge in Virginia Beach.
Prosecutors say he helped Andre Bigby escape, allowing him to make it all the way to California. Bigby is accused of killing a 19-year-old at the oceanfront back in February. Today we learned how Smith allegedly helped Bigby escape.
And Stephen Graves was in court today.
That's right, guys. We really learned about how police had to piece things together here. We're talking about cell phone calls as well as surveillance video from other states to keep Smith in jail. But his defense says it's a weak case. A court hearing full of new details into why Henry Smith is behind bars, accused of trying to help a man get away with murder, enough for a judge to move his case forward.
Today was kind of a little bit of relief.
Relief, but it gave few answers for Jalen Harris's family. Back in February, the 19-year-old father was shot near the oceanfront and later died.
He was loved by everybody.
Police started looking for 30-year-old Andre Bigby for murder, but they had trouble finding him. A detective said Bigby called Smith right after the shooting. Soon after, police say Smith met up with Bigby's girlfriend in Hampton multiple times. There, she would give him Bigby's wallet, clothes, and cell phone. Police say Smith was soon found twice on surveillance at a store in North Carolina, near where Bigby has family, suspected of bringing him the items. Smith was arrested, charged with accessory back in Virginia Beach. We heard in his recorded interview in court, he told detectives he wasn't a snitch. Bigby was eventually found in a deserted part of California. Smith's defense says none of this means he knew about Bigby's murder charge. We still don't know if Jalen knew the 2 suspects, but his family just has one question.
What really took place? Why Jalen's not here?
Now, Bigby has yet to be brought back to Virginia. Meanwhile, Smith had a short bond hearing. A judge said, though, he will stay behind bars. Stephen Graves, 13 News Now.